Hi, this is Bobby with Grubb-Mudd Concrete. Today we're working out in Avon, Indiana, where we're pouring a new front porch with some cantilever steps, a new sidewalk going into the garage, new aprons in front of the garage, a new front walk, and a new driveway. All in all, about 36 yards of concrete. This is part 3 to a 3-part series where we're going to be pouring the concrete and finishing it and giving you an up-close and personal view of how you do it. We're going with Sagamore Ready Mix. They're a well-known company here in Indianapolis. First, we're doing the front porch here, the top step, where it's just some labor work where you pretty much have to bring all the concrete in and shovel it in at about a 4 slump, maybe a 3.5. No wetter than that, and you also have to vibrate the edges. I use a Sawzall for that. You can kind of see right there, and you strike it off, and then you got to give it a little while. So we came over and poured these little aprons going into the driveway. They were all spalled out, so we had to break them out and re-pour them. Here Steven is floating them off and getting them to the correct height. And you have to have a good crew to do something like this. So we had me, Steven, Josh, my dad, and Justin, and everybody knows how to run a float, and we had a couple master finishers on the job. So when you're doing these, you have to get these garages exactly right. So you want to lower them down and check them like that. Make sure they're getting a good seal. There's the third one. You just always want to make sure they get all the way down. Then you have to float that little mark back out, and you do a sideways broom finish on it just like this. So we poured another 10 yards at 2 p.m. You want to wait as long as you can to take those boards off the garages. So we stripped them right when this truck pulled up. But this is a full truck. It's 10 yards. If you like what we're doing out here, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and help support our channel. This is about a 4.5 slump, and you can tell we're pouring on top of wire mesh. It's very important that you pull this up so it doesn't just get down into the concrete. You don't want it in the bottom of the concrete. You want it about a 1/2 inch up to give it solid strength. So what Justin does is he puts the pick underneath of it and gets up in there and really pulls it up. And my dad does pulling up on the other side. So just do your best and get it up about a 1/2 inch. And you can see how we got the plywood in front of the brick to help keep the splatters down. You got to float it out. This is me cutting the joints. You see how I'm cutting them on the board right there. That's very, very important if you want to get them straight. This is a walking edger. It's pretty self-explanatory, just like a normal edger, except for when you're finished, your finish swipe needs to be away from you. But yeah, you can get a pretty quick edge on it there on a driveway. It's pretty nice because it's 12 inches wide and you can't roll it. This tool is called a Darby float, and you can really reach out pretty far. So my dad's hitting that with the Darby, and Steven's hitting the top section with the bull float. When you're doing a big job like this, you need to stay one step ahead, so Justin's compacting the next section, and Josh and Justin are putting the wire in as we're finishing this off. These are really hard to broom. You have to put some knee boards out or walk in your socks or something so you don't put deep holes in the concrete. You can use tennis shoes too, but I always like to use knee boards. That way I don't make any impressions in it. You don't want your concrete holding water at all, especially in this top part. It was really flat, so you can see we're pushing and pulling to scrub the broom in, because you don't want to clog up your joints either, because you still have to clean them back out with the trowel, and you can't run a joiner through it. So here I am with the little burner trowel, burning in the picture frames. And Steven's up on top in the shade because it sets slower, finishing that off. And here's everything broomed, and it's time to go home for the day. And here's one more look at the front step. It is a cantilever step, and you'll be able to tell when we get the formers pulled. It looks really, really sweet. Here's the next day. Early in the morning, about 8 in the morning, we're wetting the subgrade just like we did the day before, and we're pouring about 9 yards. There you kind of could see the step, but here's the third truck, and like I said, we're pouring about 9 yards. Those of you that think this is all a man job, there's females on the job too, as you can see right there. She was a really good driver. So we're bringing her up, getting her as far away or as close to the other pour as we can. And when you float it, you always float every single side that you can. And this is called striking off, where one guy's on one side in unison with the other guy, and each guy has a grade that they're pulling it down. And any high mud, the guys with the rakes pull it back. This is called a runner. You cut basically it's a grade that you can run down when you turn. It's called turning and burning. So we're getting ready to turn and burn, and you can kind of tell what we're doing. We're widening it out here. You want to make sure it's a real wide grade. It helps your come along guys be able to see grade better. And this is called turning and burning. And just going down the last section, you can see we're in unison with each other, and we're not having to pull back very much mud because our come along guys do a really good job. But you can see my outside of my board is basically drawing a line in there. And this is called bull floating. Big shout out to Big Ray right there. He came and wanted to see what we were doing. Guy out of Danville that's finished thousands of yards of concrete. Here's the driver again. So yeah, everybody thinks that this is all men are out here on the job. You're wrong. Women can come out here and do this stuff too. I've seen women finishers, women drivers, women bull float. And it's kind of nice when you don't have to be around guys all day long, I guess. Yeah, a good bull float guy will get it all closed up and try to stay about 6 inches to a foot off of the edge, because it'll make a dip there, and then you just go through with your hand float and float the top. You do have to put an edge there. So Steven's using the walking edger again. You just got to use it wet, but it is a pretty cool tool. It was one of the first times we had used it was on this job, but we liked it and we're gonna keep on using it. Gets everything flat. It's just impossible to roll. Here's the double wide joiner again. You can see where we always cut it on a 2x4 or straight edge. That way you're getting your rough draft per se joint pretty straight. We also pop a line the other direction and line everything up with. And when Steven's bull floating, he goes right up to that line and doesn't cover it up. That way you could set your 2x4 down it the other way. Right there. Goes right up to it but doesn't go over it. And Justin, he's cutting with the 2x6 right there. I guess he had tried doing it without and it just wasn't straight, so he got on the 2x6 and it made it perfectly straight. There you go, that's perfectly straight. Oh yeah, here's the underwear failure. Don't be bent over with your butt crack hanging out. Somebody might put something down your pants. So the key to doing it this way, I would say, is cutting your joints pretty wet, but using a straight edge to cut along, whether you're on your sides or out in the middle. And always staying one step ahead of it. Keeping one step ahead of it is very, very, very important. One other thing is don't broom it too wet. Let it get hard enough to where you can push, pull, and it not clog up your joints. It's alright if you gotta scrub it a little bit. You're gonna get texture in it. You just don't want to clog it up. So here's the push-pull method that Steven's doing right here. You can see if you do wait that long, you got a good broom like we have. It gives a really good texture to it too. And sometimes you'll have to scrub it a little harder in a couple spots, but that's all right. As long as you dip your broom in water, it's not gonna gob up on you, and it'll look really good if you have a good broom. And then what I do is I go back through with the burner and I shine the joints and make them look pretty, and it gives that intersection such a sharp look. If you like what you see here, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. You see some cool stuff like this all the time. There's Steven tying the wire and Josh is bringing it in. When you account for your wire, always account for your foot overlap on your wire mesh, or you'll run short. So here's our second part of our step pour. We put the rebar in there, and then we also drove some down and uprights and bent them over after we poured mud. So our wire mesh is tied. This one's a smaller pour, but we also knew we were going to pour some of the step with this too. As you see in these corners, it's very, very important to put some rebar down, especially in these corners. So there's one going around that corner, and there's a couple right there in that corner. Because corners are always something that could break, and at least you're giving it some more strength. So it's got wire mesh and rebar on it. This is about a 4.5 to 5 slump. You don't want to pour too wet, but you also don't want to pour too dry because you could get behind on it. But most of the time, if you pour it about a 4.5 or 5 slump, and you get it closed up, which means bull floated off, you'll catch back up with it if you have a good enough crew. So he's got everything edged off here, and the truck is washing out in the wheelbarrow. You either need to have a washout bag or a wheelbarrow and provide the truck somewhere to wash out in. That's a must here in Indiana. So you want to get your there's Justin filling up the steps up there, but you want to get your edges all floated in nice, and so you can snap a string line down the sides when you do your borders like this. There you can see our pencil line. We had to put a kicker in to make sure that stays straight, and here they are snapping the string line on the sides, so you get your borders exactly right. But I still suggest that you put a 2x6 or 2x4 and run your joiner down the boards. And this tool's real nice. I like it. It's called an airplane joiner. It's for cleaning up your joints on your final pass. And like I said, as long as you keep it good and bull floated, you probably won't have to get out there on knee boards, but always have some knee boards there just in case, because there's probably going to be a couple spots where you got to reach out and hit, which there was here, but that's no big deal. But it's just hard for the bull float to get a shine on it every single time, especially when it starts to get harder like this. Here's a good shot, and you can see how flat you want to hold the bull float and how slow you want to push it. And you can see that's pretty flat and pretty good. It's ready for a broom. You always want to broom it sideways to get just like this, the way the traction is going to be. And again, push-pull. If you do one section as a push-pull, you need to do all of them as a push-pull. Don't switch up how you're doing things in the middle, because then stuff's going to look different. And this is how we backfill all of our jobs. Tell the customer all you're going to have to do is plant seed, and they like to hear that. They don't want to have to do very much. So when you tell them all they're going to have to do is plant some seed, usually they go with that. I still got to shine these ribbons, which is no big deal. Just use my 4-inch burner trowel. If you like what you've seen so far, hit that like button. It would help support our channel. So I'm burning out the joints right here, the ribbons. I walk out there in my socks. That way I don't leave any big marks, and I try to keep my weight evened out on both feet, and don't push down on it, but I let it get hard enough to where it doesn't leave an imprint. And then just work it back. Sometimes you need a little bit of water. This is an expansion we used up against the garage and down here by the street. Final pour at the driveway about 7 in the morning. This is about 4.5 yards, and we also had a step which was about 2 yards, so about 6.5 yards to finish it off. And then we still had one more pour with 4 yards at the very end. But you see how we had everything covered up as we were shoveling it in. Again, we vibrate with the Sawzall. It does a really good job. And of course, you're going to want to check it with the level and make sure everything's falling away. But it doesn't get much better than these cantilever steps you'll see at the very end. There's a guy here on YouTube claiming to be the best on YouTube, but I think we gave him a run for his money on this one. Pulling up the wire, very important. You just want to always make sure you do that, and float the sides before you strike off. You basically should have it almost halfway struck off with the come along before you ever even put a rod on it. Here they are striking off down the side. They keep it tipped back just a little bit, and you want to leave a little hole at the very end. And how you can see how he's bull floating uphill. and he stops about 1 foot away from the other section. It keeps it from falling down. Then you can just hand float the end in, and then keep your wheelbarrow around to shovel in a little bit, whatever you need. Back up to the steps. Like I said, you want to make sure you have plenty of fall on these steps, so your water doesn't sit on your steps anywhere. And I always say you want to stand back. Everything I pour, I stand back and I take a look at, and I bend down and I look at it to make sure it's flowing and falling in the right direction. Everything just looks plain like it should. You get a different perspective, and it's very, very important. There you can see how the cantilever is kind of working right there. It looks really sweet, especially after I permatique it. And Steven's finishing it off right here. The driveway, this had 1% high early in it, so it started to go a little bit faster. Sometimes we'll use high early in the morning because it doesn't change the color of the concrete, but it does make it go faster. There's the airplane tool again. You can get right up to your joint without messing up your joint. For these intersections, it works great. This move here I call the Superman move. It's hard to do, but I think Josh was just trying to show me he could do it right here, because I do it all the time. I just kept on telling him, don't fall, man, don't fall. But no, they did a good job. And you can see Steven, he's brooming this one with the push-pull method. There's everything broomed, and the band shined. It looks phenomenal. I really like how this driveway turned out. See that joint about 3 feet up? Those are to help it from cracking. Again, if you like what you see, hit that like button. Double band driveway with the middle column coming straight out like that. 1 foot bands on each side. But we still have one more pour, the sidewalk at the very end. And here's how the cantilever steps look with the top form strip. We used a platinum gray color hardener, lithochrome color hardener, and we used permatique, charcoal permatique on it. Again, you need to backfill everything, and then keep a leaf blower with you so you can blow off the dirt off your brand new concrete you pour. But it's impossible not to get it on it, but it does look so much better with brand new dirt backfilled. I mean, look at that. I mean, they throw down some seed and it would grow right in. Okay, it's about 7 in the morning. Last pour at the job, truck number 6. We're just finishing off the sidewalk. Sagamore mud again, 4 yards, 1% high early, stone, air, straight cement, no fly ash. So it probably was about 3.5, but you always want to order a half yard extra. There's everything poured out and floated with the, what I used was a combo edger on the side. Then I just used that little joiner and ran it right down my combo, and then matched the top because you can't put an edge against form liners. Then you got to cut those little joints on the flares of the sidewalk to keep it from cracking, or to make it crack in your joints there. There you can kind of see what it's going to look like. Josh is reaching out and floating as far as he can. And on this, it's like one of those things where you want to clean it and float it and clean it and float it and clean it and float it, and then trial your bands. But there's that face pulled. You got to pull that one early. There's everything pulled. I hit that one more time with the trial on all the bands, and it's ready for permatique and backfill, and it'll be done. You see how beautiful that looks with 12-inch wide joiner to match the bands that go across the driveway. It doesn't get much better than that. Grubb-Mudd concrete. There's everything backfilled and permatiqued. I mean, just in the cantilever steps. You know, I don't see anybody on YouTube doing stuff like this. If they are, they don't send me the videos. If you do, send me a video in the comments. Grubb-Mudd concrete. Look at that. I mean, that thing is just, it turned out remarkably well. 12-inch wide joiner right there with the rock face, permatique, cantilever steps. Hit that like button. There's everything sealed. And thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel. And if you want to, share this video with whoever you'd like.